My name is Bärbel Weiligmann, and I really want to welcome you on behalf of HIVOS, on behalf of Age of Wonderland, on behalf of the Baltan Laboratory. And we are very pleased to have you here and look around how many people are interested in food and in the future design of a food system. So we are very, very happy to have you all here. And I promise you it will be a very interactive seminar. But before we start, we have a special beginning. I would like to ask Yo to come here. Yo is a very dear, special person. He lives in Indonesia, and he has and they have a special system to chase away the insects, and he will do it for us to start the evening with.
Hello.
I would like to ask you, do you think is this an instrument? Yes? No, you are wrong. This is a tool to scare insect from rice field. Can you imagine how it works? Sometimes it could make the insect go away, but also at this moment I would like to invite not just insect, but the spirit together with us to be here for the future will be better.
Thank you very much, Yo. And now, to get our full presence here in the room, I would like to ask you for 1 minute of silence and to think about the moment today that made you happy. Thank you. And now I would like really to, we are very, very happy to have you here. And we have a very special program. We talk about the future design of the food system, but we start completely different like you are normally used to it. And we have a special, we start with, with Nat Müller. Nat Müller is an independent curator. Matt, can you come to me? Nat Müller is an independent curator. She is. She will talk about the power of food, because we started completely different. And Nat, I want just to ask you, what do you care for?
I care for imagining something better in these dire times.
Thank you. And now you will bring us to a new level of thinking about the power of food. The floor is yours.
Okay. So, good evening and welcome. And if you don't mind, I'm just going to lean a little bit on the table. It is a real pleasure to be here, and also an honor. So I would like to thank Barbel for inviting me, and also Olga and Christina for making the initial link. There has been a lot of talk about the future of food, but I think it's also important in these times of disquiet, in these times that are very dire and tense, to look back, because we can learn a lot from the past. And this is actually what I'm going to do in the very short time that's allotted to me, to tell a few stories told through artists that look back. This year I was associate curator at the Delphina Foundation in London for their 4-year-long program called The Politics of Food. And my sub-themes for that very program were sex, diet, and disaster. Quite an interesting triad, you can say. And you can imagine all kinds of things, how they come together. But I curated an exhibition called Stirring the Pot of Story, Food, History, and Memory. And in that exhibition, I was actually trying to see how power relations and issues of conflict influence our food ways, influence what we eat and how we eat. How does war influence that? How does colonialism influence that? How do all these man-made tensions of power affect our cuisine, our rituals, and our food and culinary environment? So it was very much also looking at food narratives that were written or unwritten, individual memories, shared memories, and so on and so forth. And how these stories very much influence and continue to influence the way we experience food. Now, war, when we think of war and conflict, obviously in relationship to food, the first thing we think about is food scarcity and food shortages. And I can definitely share with you, and you know this, that many revolutions have started because of food shortages. And one of the latest, actually, that I know of was in 2008 in Cairo, the Mahalla bread riots, a small industrial town next to Cairo. They were actually the seeds for the uprisings that we saw in 2011. And I'm not going to talk specifically about a very dramatic and very important aspect of food scarcity, but rather try to weave a narrative around two things: the relationship between warfare, innovation, and ideology, on the one hand, and warfare and individual and collective memories. And I'm going to use two examples of artists that offered work for the exhibition to illustrate that. So they're a bit two sides of the same coin, and I think the most important thing to point out here is that if we speak of an imaginary, artists are of course the best people, and art is of course the best vehicle to put that forward, and the exhibition downstairs, I think, is a fantastic example. So whether we like it or not, war drives innovation and technology. It's actually during war that this triad of technology, academia, the military, and industry come together and work at full force. And within that context, food is a weapon, and it's also a tactics. There is absolutely no mistake that whoever controls food and food resources controls the theater of war. And we see that, for example, also a recent example in Syria, that there's a reason why wheat silos and bakeries are bombed in opposition-held territories. There's also a reason why Assad keeps sponsoring and subsidizing bread in territories that are still kept by the government. So, you know, that dynamic is very much in place. And in addition, you can also say that, of course, an army marches on its stomach. There's something very true in that saying. So scarcity, conflict, war, that drives ingenuity, whether we think about the Dutch famine in the Second World War and the many recipes that were made from tulip bulbs, or whether we think the military and MREs, meals ready to eat, you know, those self-heating meals that were developed in the 1960s, but now are really quite advanced technology. So these things are all really important within that context. I don't know if any people here are big fans of the BBC food program. I am. I watch it religiously. And if you have watched the Great British Menu, you will also know that in Britain they're celebrating the centenary of the WI, the Women's Institute. Now, the Women's Institute came from a war effort. It came from an ideology that women should be thrifty with food, develop different technologies for the food available. So they had this whole ethos of waste not, want not, and jamming and canning. And cans is actually something I want to talk about because it's the first project in the show by an Italian artist called Leone Contini. And Leone is usually a performance artist, but for this show, he made his first installation. And what you're looking at here are actually 100-year-old cans from the trenches between the Austrian-Italian border, actually what is now Slovenia. And these cans from the Italian trenches are, on the one hand, they are use objects. You know, it's interesting that also cans are a technology of war. It was actually Napoleon whom we can credit with the inventions of cans in the first Napoleonic Wars in the early 19th century. But they really got a production boost during the First World War. Trench warfare, you can imagine, tinned food completely changed the way war is waged. So Leone found these cans online with collectors in war dumps. And what is incredibly amazing about his project is that he actually studied the iconography on these cans. Italian cans, so you'll get a lot of anchovies, sardines, pomodori, olive oil, these types of things. And the iconography, because here we're talking on the one hand, the beginning of modern warfare, but also the advent of advertising and how these cans actually put forward a certain ideology. So these cans, on the one hand, I mean, you can try to distinguish a little bit. They will show you sometimes bucolic scenes. They will show you the Italian colonial endeavor, so we also get cans with belly dancers and with palm trees and with minarets. They will show you St. George and the Dragon. They will also show you patriotic types of narratives. So somehow these cans provide a certain sense of comfort, but also a message to these soldiers who are cold in the trenches and fighting. And what Leone also did is that he made a series of drawings. This is like an excerpt where he was trying to suss out what was happening on the cans. Some are really strange, like three very mean-looking dwarves of anchovy in hot sauce. So there's this whole ideology attached to these objects. And what I think is so beautiful about Leone's project is that on the one hand, these are, you know, things that people ate from, they used, but they're also historical objects, you know. They are really objects that tell us a story of a lived experience. And the international exhibition in Milan as well. Bertolli olive oil. Now, very different project. For soldiers and for the civilians alike, often it is memories of loved foods that keep people going. There are many stories of POWs imprisoned in a war zone, and they keep on going because they think up recipes of home, of what their mother cooked from them, things that gave them comfort. And these things obviously provide a sense of security as well in a situation that is dire. And in the exhibition that I did, this was very beautifully illustrated by Munira al-Saleh, a Lebanese artist who made a video of about 24 minutes long called Eat My Script. And the video is actually a narrative of her growing up in Beirut during the civil war that lasted for 15 years between 1975 and 1990. And during the civil war, she and her family, especially towards the end of the war in the 1980s, would go to Damascus to her aunt, where it was safe. However, then still under Assad, and like a very strict socialist regime, the food in Damascus was quite limited. So from Beirut under wartime, they would bring after-eight chocolates, the beer was still better in Lebanon, and they would bring it to Syria. Munira is writing this script while she is pregnant, so the whole film is also about food hunger, about craving, about her also being horny. So you have this whole narrative that actually tells you that food and food memories are very much an embodied experience. And what's also interesting in this film is that this whole sense of exile and displacement and being viscerally torn apart is also reflected within the visual narrative, because it starts with a car being loaded up with all kinds of vegetables, and she tells this narrative how they used to go back to Syria. And as the film progresses, you actually see the camera hovering over a dismembered lamb. And you see the pieces, you know, each piece is laid out and it hovers very slowly. So it really reflects the dismemberment of the city, of the country, that being torn apart, that is seen very viscerally in that animal. Now, I want to show you a very short clip. It doesn't do justice to the film, it's only 3 minutes. But I think it's particularly interesting to look at this film now that the tables are turned, now that we're seeing a different movement of refugees from Syria coming into Lebanon. And I think it also shows you very well that during war, food is the perfect bribe. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Nat. And now we would like to, with the inspiration of Nat, I invite every table to discuss what are the food memories that gave you comfort. So we have 10 minutes to talk about what are the food memories that gave you personally comfort. And on the table you have paper and pens, and please use it as a mind map for the food memories that gave you comfort, to write it down that we can later collect it. I would like to... I have the feeling that you had beautiful discussions and conversation and exchange, and I would like to ask one table, and Christine, I asked her before, to share one special comfort of this group with us.
Only one.
Only one. The best one.
I think for myself, okay. Okay, for myself and the Indonesian team, what we find to be comforting food is our indigenous foods, especially when we found ourselves in foreign lands. We always wanted to go back to the food that we knew from childhood and try to cook that in a foreign land. It gave us a lot of comfort and identity.
Thank you. We will collect your memories and will produce a mind map of the food memories that gave us comfort. And now I want to move to the second speaker of this program, Marcel Beukeboom. Can you come to me? Marcel is a very special person, very innovative, very open, and searching always for innovation. And he's the head of the Food and Nutrition Security Department at the Ministry for Foreign Affairs in Den Haag. And Marcel, what makes you happy?
An evening like this, I have to say, because this is something out of the ordinary, even for me. So it's I will talk about that a little bit more. But this is a special evening, and it's part about the topic we talk about, but also about the crowd, which is very unusual in the circles I'm in normally. So that's good.
Okay, now you have the floor. Please.
Thank you very much. And although right from the beginning I have to disappoint you, because I'm not going to talk about sex and war like the previous speaker did. So bear with me. This is going to be a story about policy. And when we talk about food and food security, you can't deny that there has to be a good policy to tackle these challenges and also this big problem in the world. But getting back to the war and the previous speaker, we are actually learning from what we see and what we hear. And within a little bit over a month's time, we are organizing a conference bringing together people in The Hague from the security side and the climate and food security side to exactly talk about this nexus, this connection between those two topics. So because Nat was absolutely right, these are connected, and perhaps we can learn something from that intersection. Getting back to last Friday, those of you who are on Twitter may have noticed that the trending topic last Friday was indeed food and hunger. And that was for a reason, because it was World Food Day on Friday. But unfortunately, I have to tell you, the rest of the year, food and hunger are not trending topics on Twitter. In fact, they are not trending topics in our society, despite people like us and like you here who make a living out of this or who think about this a lot. Just give you an example, in the train to Eindhoven, I checked what the trending topics of today were. One was Star Wars, and the second was 4 words to live by, whatever that may mean. But if you think that Twitter is the pulse of society, we have quite a challenge ahead of us. Last Friday also was the day that a writer called Martin Caparros got some attention in the Netherlands. He published a book called Hunger. Yes, indeed, there is more attention to the topic than just Twitter. And he is very critical about the way we actually tackle the challenge of hunger and malnutrition. He says, well, getting back to World War II, we have seen many world conferences, starting with a conference right after the war, but also JFK organized his own World Food Summit in 1963. We had the United States again in the early 70s, and you can go on and on like that. And all of them had kind of the same narrative. This is a challenge, as he paraphrases it, the single most preventable problem of mankind, and still we haven't solved it. So that is actually a disgrace to the world community. But there is perhaps some good news at the horizon. Just a few weeks ago, as a kind of a successor to the Millennium Development Goals, many of you know in this room what those were. In 2000, the global community, the United Nations, agreed upon Millennium Development Goals, and number 1 was we have to end poverty and we have to end hunger, although it was written down in more policy talk, and we weren't actually talking about solving the problem altogether. There were percentages put to it, like halving hunger. So 15 years later, that was the horizon that those objectives had. We had a new conference. We kind of agreed with each other that we nearly got there, but and that is where the positive news comes from. I say there is positive news available. Now actually the world community decided to actually end all those problems. So that is the good news. We have a similar kind of horizon. It's 15 years again. So in 2030, if it's up to us here, there's no hunger anymore. So that is very good news. But I don't hear anyone applaud because you see what the challenge is here. And actually you're as skeptical as Martin Caparros was and is. Still, looking at what has happened, a global response to really global challenges and problems. The solution this time is supposed to be universal. So it is also talking about people in more modernized countries and more developed countries. We have something to do here as well. It's not like 15 years ago, the developed world telling the developing world, okay, we can perhaps help you with solving this problem, but it's up to you. You are the hungry ones, we chip in some money and we solve it. Nothing like that anymore. And before we were sitting here in this constellation, we had a similar kind of meeting here, and we had discussions at our tables, and we were actually discussing what that means and what it actually means also for us in the Netherlands. What is our responsibility? And I had to admit, representing government here tonight, that it's very difficult for us to pick up this challenge. What is it what we have to do? And that is what I'm trying to do here tonight with you. Normally when I address groups and talk about my profession, which is trying to do something about food security in the world, I'm there to explain. I will explain what policies we have, how much money we invest, who we involve, what results we report on to Parliament and things like that. Nothing like that today, and Bärbel invited me here tonight to do it completely differently. I had to be vulnerable, and I not being here to explain, but to ask you for the solutions, which is hard because normally, as a government, you have thought hard about policies, and you have thought hard about the objectives that you set. They have to be measurable, they have to be time smart, and all the things that all the governments speak that you know, or hopefully don't know at all. So that is a different approach, and that is what I liked about this invitation, because you can also imagine what happened in my office when I said, that I was invited to the Dutch Design Week. We thought you were in development cooperation and food security. Yes, but Bärbel convinced me, and she didn't have to do such a hard job, because right from the start I was actually in with her to approach it completely from a different angle, to help me, to help the government, the Dutch government, but perhaps also other players involved here, to look at it from different angles. And that's perhaps a little segue to the last speaker of this evening, our representative from the Dutch Scientific Council for Government Policy. He actually, with his team, approached the Dutch government more than a year ago and wrote a report that said, look at it from a much more holistic angle. Don't talk about agriculture anymore. Talk about food and food systems, which is indeed different. We're not talking about raising production anymore, because production, the quantity of food is no longer the problem globally when we really look into it. It's about the distribution, it's about the quality of food. So here I am, putting a few dilemmas before you that we can discuss, hopefully, and I know there will be some speakers right after me to perhaps also present some solutions to this, looking at it from a different angle. And I brought three. And again, to be honest, if I go over the whole portfolio of the government response to food security, there are many more dilemmas than three. But I just pick out three. And I will explain them very briefly to you, because the real discussion is in the way to approach it. My first one is about meat consumption. And to explain what I mean by meat consumption, I have to explain a little bit also about the policy that we agreed upon, and that the Dutch Parliament agreed upon. The policy to reduce hunger in the world and to work on nutrition has three pillars. And those three pillars are, to put it very shortly, people, planet, profit. When it's about people, we talk about the inclusiveness of our policies. We have to talk about small-scale farmers. We have to talk about children and involve them in our food production, our food systems, and the way they are nourished. When we talk about profit, we talk about indeed raising the production of food, but also again about the production, about the knowledge that is necessary in designing a food system, and also helping small-scale farmers to produce for markets. And the third pillar, and perhaps that is the most important one when we talk about the long-term sustainability of our food system, is the ecological footprint of what we do. If we continue producing food and consuming food at the speed and the rate that we do now, we will deplete the earth before it reaches 2030. Because currently, and you know, there's a date for that, when we have consumed for about 1 year, that date is earlier every year. I think this year it was about in August already. So in August, altogether, we have consumed what the Earth can produce in a year. And it's only 30, 40 years ago that date was beyond the 31st of December, but every year it moves closer to actually the 1st of January of that same year. So we have a problem here. And within those three pillars, there's my dilemma. Meat production is a big consumer of vegetables, of kind of produce that can also be used for human consumption. So still we're not at my dilemma, but I'm getting there. You have to know that within a government you have different departments responsible for different portions of government policy. As said, I'm responsible for the development side of food security, but there are other sides to that. We also have a very productive and a very successful economic side to it. In fact, the Netherlands are the second largest exporter of agricultural produce in the world. So think of that. And a large portion of that is also the meat sector. The meat sector of the Netherlands is very successful. So if I tell my colleagues in another department, well, we actually have to bring down meat consumption and also meat production and meat export, I'm literally cutting into the meat of someone else in a productive sector of the Netherlands, and I'm even cutting into your wallet, because one way or the other, someone has to pay for that. So that is a dilemma. And I'm not having the answer here. I'm posing it here as a question to you. What can we do about that? Staying within the boundaries of our planet, still be a profitable country, and still also helping others to be part of that food system globally in such a way that we can actually sustain it for the generations to come. So that was number one. The second one, which is also one with multiple heads, it's about urbanization. When we talk about the development of local food systems, and when we talk about the profitability of agricultural economies in developing countries, you're also talking about scale. At the current rate and at the current distribution of food production and food producers in developing countries, comparing that with what we have done over the decades, the number of small-scale farmers is too high. That's just a fact. And the way their farms are organized will not make all of them successful in producing for markets, in raising their yields and things like that. So something has to happen there. What is happening is when we start helping developing rural communities and local farmers, they will scale up, and others will be pushed out of the sector and most probably move to the city, creating different kinds of demands for food, creating different food distribution patterns, making those cities grow, and even including added problems that most often the young people will move, leaving their parents behind and posing us with a big problem of a graying farmers community. And that is not unique to the developing world. That's the same in the Netherlands. I think the average age of farmers is above 60 at the moment, both here and in many developing countries. So that's a dilemma. Where do we put our policy intervention, and what kind of side effects does it have that you perhaps don't want, or for what you have to come up with different solutions? So that was number two, urbanization. The last one is, I think, directly getting into what we're doing here today, looking at things differently, involving other partners, and that is the role of government and the role of governance. Just also 20, 30 years ago, it was very easy for us working for government. We would combine the sometimes 80 or 90% of a government budget in a developing country, and the ambassadors of what was then called a donor country would sit together with government locally there and decide what to do, because they were calling the shots. That has completely changed since then. The combined flow of finance from donor sources in the developed world to developing countries is below 10% now. So if you want to change something, and I think that's actually a good development, because that means there's much less dependency. But if you want to change something there, you have to think of involving others and kind of analyzing who else makes up that flow of finances. And a lot of that comes from private sector partners. A lot of that comes from investors, for profit or for non-profit. So we have to sit together and think of new ways of involving partners, think of new ways to reach the objectives that we have, not necessarily only as the government, but as the Sustainable Development Goals say, universally for all of us. So that is a third, not necessarily a dilemma, but a completely new question. How are we going to work together, with whom, and to what effect? Today is, I think, the kickoff for that. Not really, because we try to experiment with that already, and many people come to the Netherlands already to ask what actually is a cooperative. How do you do that at Friesland Campina or at Rabobank? Or what is it? And we actually have a term for that already. We call it a Dutch diamond. The way in which we cooperate with the private sector, the public sector, non-profit and science. But still there's a lot to learn, and we still make more mistakes than we do things right. So I need your help with that. And I need your help to not only change the things we do, because we can't continue the way we did. Look at the way the Millennium Development Goals were not reached. We have to change the way we deal with it completely, and we have to make hunger a trending topic of the past. Thank you.
Thank you, Marcel. For the first thing you have to do is to extend the Dutch diamond, because the Dutch diamond doesn't include the creative sector.
That's a good point.
So that is that is number one. And they
can design a new diamond for me, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, they can. So and we would like to have now group discussion to help Marcel. And I would like to ask the groups to use the second paper of the on your tables. And it goes now about what do you bring to the table to support for partnerships on food with the government. And for this you have now 10 minutes, and afterwards we will share two solutions from two tables. Wait.
Follow up Marcel's.
Okay, wait one. Sorry. There's an unexpected interruption, but we're open for everybody. So there's an impulse coming after Marcel's presentation.
Okay, thank you. I'm Simbat from Kyrgyzstan, and here today you are ambassador of our governance. And I would like to put you on the table also a question about these high standards for food that you have in Netherlands. As soon as you still have a lot of leftovers, food wasted around. And I tried to save these cucumbers that we get like a leftovers from Saturday market a few days ago. And I really tried to distribute them among people. And I contacted with food banks, Surplus project, maybe you know about them. And what they tell me that you have high standards for these foods to be distributed further. Otherwise, on Friday, they couldn't catch it up and to spread to the other people. And so that's why, as soon as there are no, you're all conscious people today about this food, please come downstairs and help me to save these cucumbers. They are still nice. And for you, it's a put on your question, why you have these high standards, even for leftovers, to distribute it to food banks, for milk, for fresh vegetables and fruits. So maybe here you can find some solutions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. And okay. And now I would like to ask you. Now I would like to ask you what do you bring on the table for Marcel, and we will prepare it to take it home. What can you bring for on the table for partnerships on food? Yeah. Okay. Okay. Thank you very much for your contribution to bring ideas to Marcel for his to do partnerships on food with the government. And I would like to ask one table with a very special solution.
I think I already had a microphone, but it's not. Marcel, we thought at our table that this room is your think tank. And our table's suggestion, but of course it would need everybody's agreement, is to offer the capacity of all of us to your department for 2 full days in a seminar, which we'd be very happy to organize. That's our table. Everybody else has to decide for themselves.
Oh, thank you very much for the one more.
Of course, including all of our foreign guests who are here now. So we have to act soon. Huh?
Yeah. Okay, we come after the evening. We come back to fill it in practically. And now I want to thank you so much. And now I want to give the floor to Kurt van Mensvoort. Please. Kurt is a very special person. He's an artist, he's a philosopher, he has a next future, a next nature. He has so many talents, and he will share with us his new passion. But before he shares, I have one question to you. What makes life worthwhile living for you?
People. I can elaborate if you like, but I think people, it's really the most beautiful thing I ever saw in my life. And that's for many other people, it's not a default answer, because I know there are also a lot of people who think we are a plague, you know, that we are spoiling everything on the planet. And but I think it's just a wonderful species where we have to mature. We are now in our teenage time, and as humanity we have to mature. And I'm confident that we can do it. And every day I become more confident that we can do it. But there are still some issues to solve, and that's what. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much. And now I give you the floor.
Thank you. Okay, I want to spend some 10 minutes with you on a very specific topic. I want to talk about the future of meat. We need to talk about what's happening with meat, and we already discussed a bit what's happening with meat. So thank you for that Marcel. A lot of people know that global warming is an issue. However, only few people know that on average about 15% of the greenhouse gases are caused by meat production. Aren't we just consuming too much? And all the forest that we remove to grow crops, to feed animals, to then make a steak, all the land we consume, our earth is too small because we use so much of it to produce our meat. And then at the same time there are still people in the world who don't have enough food. And then I haven't even talked about the animal suffering and the diseases. You know, we've all seen it in the newspapers, these problems. So we have to make some changes here, right? Because and what are the options? Well, one option is to pretend all is well and simply continue to consume all the meat we consume today. And yeah, well, we can do that up to a certain moment, of course. Another option is to become a vegetarian. Who here in the room is a vegetarian? How many people? That's quite a good number. That's a strong number. You notice that I'm not raising my hand myself. I eat meat, and I also eat too much meat, I have to say. Like most Dutch people, on average, we eat 85 kilograms of meat per year per person. In the US, it's about 125 kilograms. In India, it's 5 kilograms. So there are some differences. And yeah, another option is to eat insects. That we could also do. Well, Yo-Yo, you scared away all the insects at the beginning of the evening. But yeah, we need to, especially in this region. You know, there are other regions where people eat a lot more insects and get their protein. But here we could do more. We could eat more insects, so we can do all that. And then there's the fourth option, which is a bit weird and uncanny, but it's the option I want to discuss with you today. And this is the option of in vitro meat. In vitro meat, it functions in the following way. You take a few cells from the animal, you put them in a petri dish, then you feed them, they will grow, and then you will basically grow your meat. You're only not growing your meat in the cow, because this is also a meat factory in a way, but then you do it in another way. And the idea is that this would use much less resources than growing a whole animal. The idea is already quite old. Already in 1931, Winston Churchill said, "We shall escape the absurdity of growing a whole chicken in order to eat the breast or wing by growing these parts under a separate, suitable medium." This is one of the first known visions of in vitro meat. The first patent is by Willem van Elen, That's a Dutchman. So in the Netherlands, we had the first patent on in vitro meat technology. He's kind of like saying bye-bye to the cow there. And 2 years ago, another Dutch person, Mark Post, he presented the world's first lab-grown burger. A burger which was grown in the lab. And it was presented in London for a world audience. It cost 250,000 euros still to make. You know, it's research. It was very, very extremely expensive, but that's often the case with new technologies. In the beginning, they're very expensive, and then later you will get perhaps, or perhaps not, a return on investment. And this man was willing to invest in it. I don't know if you know who this is. This is one of the Google founders, Sergey Brin. And that was also big news that he invested so much money in this new meat technology. This is how it looks. So you grow small chips of meat in the lab. So this also explains why the first piece of meat was a hamburger, not a steak. You know, steak way too difficult. Hamburger is this processed meat, all small pieces of meat, and then you combine them, and there you have your hamburger. Okay, so this is where we are now, but we are at the Dutch Design Week, and we are asking the question, what if? And we are looking at things from a design perspective. So I also did that, and I was kind of like with these researchers like Mark Post, like, interesting what you're doing, but it's also a bit of a horseless carriage. Yeah, you know, it's a new technology, and it's tempting to think you will make the same meat products with the new technology. However, yeah, there might also be this whole new creative potential, and no one was exploring it. So I decided to do that with a whole group of designers and design students, lots of people involved, and this resulted in the world's first in vitro meat cookbook. 45 in vitro meat recipes that you cannot cook just yet. It's a what if. And I want to share with you some pages from the book, some recipes that we made. This is one of the first ones that you envision, like if it's too difficult to print a whole steak, but you can make thin threads, then yeah, you could knit your meat. And this might be this whole new ritual that in the future, well, grandmother, that you will then be like the grandmother by that time, you will knit your piece of meat, and it can be nostalgic, it can be nice, it can be, yeah, something entirely new. That's the first application. So something else you look at, because we try to look at the creative potential. It's tempting to think that meat is just grown in the lab because it's more efficient and less polluting and more animal friendly. But then it will be this inferior derivative of the meat that we have today, like a fake meat or a copy. That's often how we see it. But if you look at the specific of the technology, you realize that making meat in the lab also has some qualities. There are hardly any microbes involved there. So you can make very clean, soft or even transparent meat. We call this also honest from the lab. It's honest from the lab. And this, what you see here, is a transparent sashimi. Or you could make a sushi that's softer than the best sushi you ever had. And then it's not a fake copy anymore. It has its own authenticity. So I think that's what we should try for. Well, this is something weird for the kids. Yes. Yeah, well, we had different dishes for the kids. This is the first one we think of. It's sort of like anecdotal. It's not great, you know. But it would be fun to make a dodo nugget. But this dish, this is what I would recommend to feed to your kid. What is it? It's a simple sausage, not too exciting. However, this sausage has been made from the pig Pookie. And we just took some cells from Pookie. So we didn't have to slaughter the pig. It could just live. And then you could feed a sausage from Pookie to your child. And the next day you can go out in the garden and say, there's Pookie, it's alive, you can hug it. It's still there. And this will like radically change our consumptive relationship with animals. And it's something that I would like, yes, I would sign for today. It's artificial, it's technological. I don't care. I have a different relationship with this animal. Meat is also, growing meat in this different way is also the complete deconstruction of meat as we know it. It's almost like abstract art. You know, a Picasso, it's not figurative, it can be abstract. You can then break it down, rebuild it. So Meat Eyes is an example of that. And also during the design week, we are doing some testings with offering people Meat Eyes. It sounds like I'm not going to eat it. It's delicious. Finally, an ice cream for grown-up people. Meat fruit, that's another thing that comes to mind because, yeah, if you're not hurting the animal, then, yeah, well, it's real meat, but, yeah, it also has some vegetarian. No, it's not vegetarian, but you can have these hybrids. And that's what I also like about that new technology forces us to rethink our categories like vegetarian, meat lover, and we have to think again like the people who said they were vegetarian. Who of them would eat in vitro meat? I hope there's some who dare to raise their hand. Ah, there are a few, yes. So that's what I like. That, well, you can be a vegetarian. It's actually great because being a vegetarian is still more sustainable than in vitro meat for sure. But if you would like to taste some meat in a different way, you could do it. And you could maybe begin with some meat-free fruit, which is sort of in the middle. We call this veggie morph. Are you okay, Barbel? All right. Because that also is something that with the vegetarian alternatives that we see today in our supermarket, they always try to mimic meat. They try to copy meat, they try to look like meat, and I think you should not go for that. You should think of something original. And I know there's one designer here in the audience, Marije Vogelenzang, who has done some great work with the plant bones, and you should check it out. I don't have your slides, but things are happening there. This is something very speculative and out there. We cannot do it. It's not very feasible, but it's like the future beyond the beyond vision. You see here hybrids, synthetically manipulated animals / plants. They are sort of in between plants and animals. And on the teppanyaki plate, but they don't have a nervous system, so they don't feel pain. I have to add, as a disclaimer, and as with my engineering background, that this is sort of like a crazy story. It will not happen in the next 40 years, but you know, maybe you never know. Oh well, no. Well, yes. This is. I wanted to introduce this first because I have to. Our method, so, yeah. Well, these are the celebrity cubes. Because when you think of taking cells from an animal without having to slaughter the animal, then almost immediately you think, could we do it also with people? And this is a fictional product where you would have like the fans of Lady Gaga would like to, they are so in love with her, they like to eat her. Or you think Usain Bolt, he's such a great runner, I like to have some of that muscle. Of course, this is pure metaphor, right? And I'm also not sure if it's desirable, but I'm deliberately showing both dreams and nightmares because I think it's not my role to tell you what we should eat in the future. I'm also completely not interested in predicting the future. Rather, this is about being a radar for potential futures that we then make tangible. We can have a discussion and then we can together decide what we actually want. So who would buy some celebrity cubes? Well, there are a few fans. Oh, well, good. I'm surprised, but you are very like forward audience. I'd like to round off with one more dish, which is also in the realm of human meat and cannibalism, but in a very interesting way. This is a dish developed by Chloe Rutsenveld, one of our students at the time, now a very successful designer, and she had the vision of a man or women growing a medallion of meat in 3 months' time on his or her own body. And then you can harvest the meat from your body, and you can serve it in a very intimate dish with a loved one. You can serve your own body. Who thinks this is very beautiful and poetic? And who thinks this is absolute horror? Yeah, okay. No, we still have some work to do there. Besides the book, there's also a new project. You can check it out at bistroinvitro.com because I decided to make a next step and to make a restaurant. I wanted to make a restaurant, but of course it's fictional. I cannot cook it yet. So what to do? I looked at the world's best restaurants. You have in Denmark, you have Noma. It's top of the list. There used to be, it's now closed. In Spain, El Bulli, very famous restaurant. And at its peak, 1 million people every year try to dine there. 1 million people. It's a small space. Only 8,000 people could actually enter the restaurant. And yeah, whoever here went to El Bulli to eat there? Is there anyone in the audience? No. But who knew El Bulli? Yeah, a lot of people. So that's interesting that we know it, but we don't have a chance to actually eat there. So only 1.8% of the people that wants to eat there actually eats there. And the rest just consumes the images or the idea. You know, I could eat at El Bulli one day. And I decided to take that one step further and make a restaurant where 100% image consumption. And this became the Bistro in Vitro. You can go to the website bistroinvitro.com. You can select your menu there and you can make a reservation as of 2028. Then we open. But I have to tell you that we strictly serve food for thought. Thank you.
Oh, good, fantastic. Thank you so much. Thank you very much for your wonderful presentation with a lot of food for thought. And thanks a lot. And we are now coming back to our present innovations. So you're guiding us in the future. But what we would like to do is we would like to come to ask you, what are your most important innovations in the food system? And we have at HIVOS, we started an innovation platform and an innovation channel, and we want to put our films on our small films on this innovation channel. Marcel also put some films on it. So what we would like to ask you and what we would like to harvest here in the room is, what are your most important innovations in the food system right now? And we have 7 minutes for it at the table. And please write it down on the sheets. And this is our platform. It is this is our innovation channel, Sustainable Diets. Afterwards, you can check it. It's a beautiful new channel that offers innovations in the food system. And thank you for harvesting now your most important innovations. It is a topic we can discuss for ages on, I know, but in terms of timing, we have to continue. But I want to give the voice to one table that is 4 women and 1 man with a wonderful idea. So it's not diverse, but please, can you give us your innovation?
Hi. We were thinking about startups because there are many startups in the food scene. One of them is Rechtstreeks, and they, for instance, collect food from local farmers and bring it around. And another example is the Dutch Wheat Burger, who are sort of bringing a different kind of fast food to consumers with seaweed. So we think that, for instance, the government should work more with those little startups with great plans. Yeah.
Thank you. So 2 startups. Marcel, you listened? So two startups, there is a Wheat Burger and the other one is Rechtstreeks.
Yeah, we wrote them down.
Okay, thank you very much. And now we come to the last presentation. That is, can I? Mr. Rwanga. Mr. Rwanga, please come to. Come to me. Mr. Rwanga is from Uganda. He's the mayor of Fort Portal, and he was, and the Food Lab works with you, with KRC and with you. Yes.
Municipal Council.
Yes.
Yes.
And my question for me is, what are when are you in the right spirit? What are situations that you are in the right spirit?
Mainly when I'm thinking about God. Yeah, that's when I'm at my best and in the right spirit. Yeah.
Thank you. You have the floor.
Yes, thank you. Good evening, all of you. My names are Asaba Edson Ruyonga. I'm the mayor for Potro Municipal Council in a country in East Africa called Uganda. And that is in Africa. Who among you has ever been to Uganda? Thank you. Thank you. And who among you knows where East Africa is? Okay, that's good. And what comes in your mind when someone tells you about Africa? What comes in your mind? You may not know. Music? And that is also good. To begin with, I'm extremely glad that I'm part of this food program, and I'm extremely very grateful to HIVOS and KRC. These are organizations which work in Uganda, and I'm extremely very glad that I'm working with them as a mayor of Fort Portal Municipal Council, and most especially when we think about food. Now, as I said, Fort Portal is a growing town which has been earmarked by our central government to become a tourist city in the vision 2040. That means that from now on, the municipality is going to start developing so as to attain a city status by that time. But here it is very important to note that in developing countries, when we think of development, we mainly put our emphasis on what we call hard infrastructure. Those are roads, electricity, markets, and so forth and so on. But we rarely think about soft infrastructure. This is where HIVOS and KRC have opened our eyes that please look here. These two must be developed, together, simultaneously. And we are extremely very glad that from now on, Fort Portal Municipal Council and most of the local governments in Uganda are now going to think about food as one of the most important components when we are thinking about development. Now, having said this, allow me to focus on food in particular. To begin with, extremely very glad that I'm here to discuss about food. For us in Fort Portal and Uganda generally, we are very much concerned, and we would like to be related, to connect with whoever is thinking about food in the whole world. We in Uganda now are very much thinking about urbanization as a policy. And this means the government is encouraging people to move from the rural area to the towns, so that services, better services, can easily be given to the people. And secondly, so that the rural area can be left for commercial agriculture. This is a policy that we have in our country. But then, this policy, good as it may look, it is posing a lot of challenges. Because when people move from the rural area, they come to town, they become the poor of the poor. Because the poorest people in developing countries can be found in urban areas. So when these youngsters, mainly the youth, move from the rural, to begin with, they leave only the old people. And now the responsibility of agriculture is left to the old. So that in the end, when you look at it, it is the old people who stay in the rural area who are producing now for the young people who are living in the urban. These young people come from the rural to the urban in search of one good life, in search of jobs, which jobs mainly cannot be found. So in the end, they end up roaming in town, creating a problem for themselves, for the community, and for the government itself. And because of this, we in Fort Portal are being helped by the two organizations, that is KRC and HIVOS, have discovered that this influx of these youngsters coming in town has brought about a change in the food cycle, the way food is cooked, the way food is eaten, and the places where it is served and eaten. So here we are talking about informal food vis-a-vis formal food. Formal food usually is to be found in restaurants, in hotels, and in the homes. But now that situation has changed in such a way that the young people have decided to establish their own selling places along the streets. So here we are talking about street food vending. You will remember or recall that when we were still under colonialism, there are some laws which were put in place. That is in 1935. We got our independence in 1962. But the Britons left laws which we are still following, which outlaw the selling of food in these queer and awkward places, the street. Food is only to be served in restaurants with licenses after people have been, gone through a procedure of medical checking and this and that and so forth and so on. But now with the coming of this influx from the village to the rural, automatically there has been demand for easy food, for cheap food, and for food which is available all the time. And this now is being provided by the street vendors. The consumers are already there. The food which is being provided is cheap enough. So the availability of food, the cheapness of the food, and the fact that the youngsters are finding jobs for themselves. Now automatically that brings about food vending in our streets. But we as a local government now, as the authority, we find ourselves in a dilemma. This is something that has been compelled on us, and we cannot do away with it. So the best alternative is for us to accept it. But we can only accept it if we make new laws to accommodate it. So we are working around the clock, being helped by the two organizations, HIVOS and KRC. First of all, to make new legislations to accommodate this food vending on the street. Secondly, we also discover that the hygiene of the places where this food is being prepared seems to be not acceptable. So as a government, we are moving in now to very quickly give supportive, environment. How do we better the environment where these youngsters are preparing the food? Then secondly, we want to look at a situation whereby we are saying, what type of food are they giving to the public? Because this is something that we cannot chase away. This is something we cannot do away with. This is something that we must accept. But then we are saying, let us go in and improve on it. So we are looking at the nutrition part of it. How do we make laws, rules, and regulations which are going to help to improve on the nutrition part of it? Secondly, we look at the tools, the utensils and so forth and so on they are using. More often than not, we find that the tools they are using now are really local and rudimentary. So what goes in our mind is, how do we improve on this sector? How do we give them tools which can be befitting to the food we want them to give to our people? Another point we are thinking about is, say for instance, the water they use. What sort of water do they use? More often than not, we have discovered in the research KRC and HIVOS have been carrying out, that the water, say for instance, they use is more often than not, it is contaminated water from the swamp, from the stream, and from the rivers around. So what goes in our mind is, how do we improve on that? How do we give them, say for instance, tapped water? So these are the challenges that we feel must be solved. Now, in our government, we have got what we call... In
terms of timing.
Yes, yes, I'm coming. Yeah, we've got what we call policies, because we work according to policies, and policies in the local government must somehow synchronize with the policies of the central government. So we are now thinking of a business opportunity, and most important, this is what probably brings me here. When we think of what we can do, we feel that we cannot do it alone. We feel that we've got to make up a team. And this team must be comprised of people both from the local and from the international community. So here with me, therefore, as I wind up, we have a business opportunity for you, for all of us. There is an open business window for the local and international investors in the following areas. Solar street lighting. Uganda is one of the areas whereby we get sunshine almost more than 10 hours a day. So if solar lighting was used, it could go a long way in providing the light we need, because most of the food vending is done at night. So we are extending an open window for any private person to come and provide us with the solar lighting system. There is also investment in clean energy. Many of the informal food vendors are using smoke cooking charcoal stoves that are a risk to not only their own health, but it could be a risk to the whole town. It could set off a fire for the whole town. So since this is an innovation week in this area, we would like people who can come up and say, look, there is a better innovation which can help you in that area. We would like to invite you to become part of the city modeling that we are working on now. You see, as we accept this food vending, we need to plan the town in such a way that things can go on according to plan and not haphazardly. We want also to invite you to become part of the clean food processing. We need a lot of processing when we are going to have clean food. We also want you to become part of our waste management, whereby we are either recycling or using waste to produce manure. You can become part of that so as to, you know, not to deplete our Mother Earth. We also inviting you so that you can come and support our eco-tourism. Uganda is one of the countries in Africa that has a lot of tourism activities. We are inviting you, say for instance, to have your holidays in Uganda as tourists. And then finally, we would like to invite you to associate with us in providing food for not only Africa, not only for the people who are very hungry, and probably we have got people who cannot even afford 1 meal a day. And yet, in some parts of the world, we have got people who are getting some particular diseases because of probably taking too much. So all what we are trying now to say is, can we share? Please, can we share? Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you so much, Mr. Wanga. And I think you gave all the areas of innovation you are seeking solutions for. You gave to us, and we have afterwards we have a reception. So all the people that have some ideas, they can come to you now, and you are also here tomorrow, and we can collect all the ideas. You can send it to me. So we will bring it to you, and I think that is you have a clear picture how you want to improve your city. And if you go out, you see on the pictures you see they are from Fort Portal, and it's really a wonderful city. I've been there; it's fantastic. And so we work like this, that we collect the innovation now at the reception. They come to you, hopefully many, and all the others we will collect. And I thank you so much.
Okay, thank you.
And what is very nice is that Mr. Wanger came in the morning and he had an interview with the TOW, because they really are interested in your food system. Okay. Thank you so much.
You are most welcome.
And now, and now 3 more steps and then we can go for drinks. I would like to ask Professor Dr. Gerard de Vries. He wrote the food policy report for the Scientific Council of the Netherlands, maybe WRR, and he's an expert. Yeah, I think he's the most experienced expert here in the room. And I asked him to do a summary of this evening, and I'm very honored that you accepted it. And I'm very honored that you give us your view on our evening regarding the future food system. Thank you very much.
I won't summarize. Just food is a topic and a problem that... Okay, food is a topic and a problem that goes around all kinds of divisions that we are used to. Food is nature and it is culture. Food is something which is sold on the market and it's heavily regulated by governance. Food is agriculture, and today it is also industry and so on. So if you think about food, you have to leave all kind of established distinctions that we used to divide the world in behind. If we look into the global problems that the world is facing with respect to food, there's one problem that has not mentioned much tonight: health. Of course, there are still almost 1 billion people who are undernutrition, who go to bed with hunger regularly. But there are also 3 billion people who are suffering from overweight and obesity. And that is not just affluence, because obesity and overweight is also a poverty problem in many countries. So if you add that up, almost 4 billion out of the 7 billion people in the world are not adequately fed. There is a serious problem. We know how to feed the world, but we distribute it wrong. And we are producing food that makes us really unhealthy. That's problem 1, health, public health. Problem 2, sustainability. That is, of course, mentioned. But to feed the world in the coming decades, where we will go, according to the United Nations projections, from 7 billion people in the world to 9 billion people in 2050, the productivity has to raise about 70%. And at the same time, we are running out of our natural resources. So sustainability is absolutely a big, big, big issue. The third problem that we are facing is that the world food system is so complex that there is nobody who can claim, and in fact, to have any control on it. Nevertheless, the food system has to change. Now, the only solution that we could think of is that if you want to try to have a food system that is robust enough to afford change and to sustain any crisis, then you have to enhance the resilience of that food system. So I come to point 3. For designers and innovators and people with ideas, there are lots of opportunities, of course. And because of that food is crossing over between nature and culture and so on, you will need interdisciplinary teams, no doubt. Innovation is not necessary in this area, high-tech innovation. Especially, for example, one of the projects downstairs is low-tech but very smart. The other thing is that innovation is not necessarily technology in the normal sense. I do think that a major challenge for the Western world, and perhaps also for the rest of the world, is that we have to come up with new business models. We have to come up with new ideas about how to distribute food. The supermarket as a model is, whatever, 50 years old, perhaps 100 years old. It's a disaster, in a sense, because the supermarket is the channel in which we distribute unhealthy food. So come up with an idea about how to change the shop, how to change distribution of food, and come up with a kind of... So the food system is not just a technology, it's not just distribution. Food system is the whole thing, and there has been all kind of new design. Fourth point, and then I'll limit. If we think about innovation, we think about growth. But, for example, on the issue when we have to, that's not a dilemma. We have to reduce meat production and meat consumption. That's not a dilemma. We should do it. The problem is how do it? And so there's an interesting small essay from the German writer Hans Magnus Enzensberger, who writes about the heroes of retreat. Of course, always we have the heroes who are of growth. But what you must think about is innovative systems, design systems, how to retreat in an orderly way. That is more difficult than to think about something new. It's how to retreat in an orderly way. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I have 2 more things, and then we, yeah, maybe. So I would like to ask Olga, if you come just on, but very briefly. Olga wants to inform us about possible activities at the Dutch Design Week for the ones that are here.
Yes, I would just like to bring to the attention that the Age of Wonderland program is not just about seeing and listening, and actually it's also about doing and making and interacting. And so therefore I would actually like to invite you to come back at some other time, tomorrow or the next day, like this week, to come back and to join one of the workshops, the events, the talks, the food labs that are organized by our 6 fellows. And for example, tomorrow evening there will be the toy dinner hack, which will be by Simbad. So please join tomorrow evening at 6, which will happen at Garden Mania. I will keep it short, so I'll go back to it on Thursday. We have the food lab and talk by Ari Sarifudin and Masha Roos. So please also join this special food lab and presentation about edible clay. And on Friday we have the bottle brick design workshop, for example. We have many more things happening, but I'm just highlighting 3, and this is the last of them, which is the bottle brick design by Ahmad Fadila, and basically trying to find new ways of working with a Lego bottle. So please come back and also check the Age of Wonderland website for more events and things to do. Thank you.
Thank you, Olga. And now I want to, Kurt and Yo-Yo, can you please, can you come up?
Well, I can announce.
Please, yeah, you do.
Yes, no, keep it a secret. Yeah. A secret. Well, actually, I have a small announcement to make as one of the ambassadors of the Dutch Design Week, because I'm involved in some events, and on Thursday we organize a huge event with 600 people on the central stage of the Dutch Design Week. It's called the Future Now evening, and we are presenting there a 21st century nature movement that doesn't want to go back but forward to nature. And there's also one special project that we are announcing, and it's the eco currency. We are developing a currency for environmental value, so that our people who are doing good for the environment can actually earn with it. That's a starting project. That's to be announced. Press releases are being written because we are making the first eco coin, and we are presenting it to someone that we, with a committee, picked as a person who has done brilliant work for the environment and who is a very ecologically intelligent person, because it is a he, because he has this old knowledge that, well, it's so ancient, many people forgot about it, but it becomes so relevant again, and we can learn so much from it again. And it's also being translated to digital tools that relate to our world and the world most of us are in. And the person who will get the coin is among us. You have to keep it a secret. Well, not really, because I can just tell you that this wonderful person who will get the first coin is Yoga Massa, and please come forward so that we can applaud you. I mispronounce your name, Yorosma. Nah. But I know that you accept if people also just call you Yo. And on Thursday we will do the award, but already we are looking forward. Do you have something to add?
I don't know how to say about this. I don't know exactly. And also, by me, only I would like to thanks for the people in Cipta Gelar. And also, by me, I would like to thanks from the Kingdom of Kasepuhan Cipta Gelar. And also, by me, I would like to thanks from the whole ancestor in Cipta Gelar. And I would like, I was asked to Abba, to the king, when about this, and what he said just like this. That's one.
So keep it a bit of a secret. The official announcement is on Thursday. This is a very wonderful cliffhanger. Thank you.
Please stay. Thank you very much, and it's very touching that Age of Wonderland, that you as a Age of Wonderland fellow, you get the first special prize for environment at the Dutch Design Week. I'm very honored, and I think we are all honored with you, and thank you so much. And I would like now to ask Marcel, Gerard, Mr. Rwanga, Kurt.
I'm already here.
Yes. please. And yeah, and Christine and Olga. So and Timo, please, can you just go into the light? Because we want really to thank you from the collaboration of HIVOS, Baltan Laboratories, and Age of Wonderland. Thank you so much to making this evening a wonderful, wonderful event. And we have a special gift for you. It is the in vitro meat book. So, so that is for you. Kannst du ihm helfen? And please, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. And we have special something for Kurt, because Timo and I thought it has to be very special. So, do you know the Culinaire Werkplek?
No, I don't.
Ha! That is a special place where you can do food concepts and different concepts that will be designed. So this is our gift for you. Thank you. And now, how many? Two. Thank you, Olga.
Thank you.
And a big thanks to Timo. He was behind the scenes, but without him, it would have never been possible. Thanks so much. And I'm very, very grateful to have this wonderful group of people with us. And you also, you delivered so many a good spirit, a good energy, and I'm sure that you have a lot of information on the sheet of papers we will collect and we will summarize and distribute. And now I would say the bar is open for a drink. Thank you.